You are not here by coincidence. Something deep within you led you to this video at this exact moment, and by the time you finish watching it, you will begin to understand why. True healing doesn't always feel like a sudden burst of light. More often it feels like a whisper in the middle of chaos, a quiet murmur that emerges not from the outside, but from something internal beginning to change. Healing begins the moment you stop rejecting the parts of your story you once wanted to erase. It starts when you begin to integrate everything you've been, everything you've lived through, and everything you've denied or tried to silence. Carl Jung once said that we don't transform by bringing light to the shadow, but by making the darkness conscious. And it's in that very process, silent and often invisible, where the true integration of the soul begins. Even if you're not fully aware of it yet, there are subtle but powerful signs that you're already healing from that deep place within. If you're ready to find out if you're on this path, like this video, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what part of this message resonates with you the most. Let's begin. One of the first signs is that you stop fighting with yourself. This isn't because you're forcing peace or trying to convince yourself that everything is okay. Instead, a quiet softness begins to settle in. It is a kind of silent understanding that allows you to observe yourself without judgment, to feel without demanding constant improvement, and to simply exist without needing to constantly fix or correct who you are. Your inner dialogue begins to change. You stop punishing yourself for feeling, and you no longer pressure yourself to be perfect just to earn rest. Instead, you begin to speak to yourself with honesty and compassion. That compassion is not weakness. It's a gentle kind of strength that begins to dismantle all the inner walls that once kept you separated from your true self. This softness doesn't arrive all at once. It settles in gradually with every decision you make in your own favor, with every moment you choose not to punish yourself for not having all the answers or not healing fast enough. You begin to understand that real strength doesn't lie in being invulnerable. It lies in feeling everything and still moving forward, even when the wounds are still open. The internal war that once felt endless begins to quiet. This is not because everything has been resolved, but because you are no longer fighting against who you are. You begin to accept that you can feel anger without losing your essence, that you can feel fear and still take steps forward, and that you can fail without becoming a failure. This kind of acceptance is not resignation, it is clarity. It is the deep realization that every emotion, every wound, and every denied piece of yourself forms a crucial part of your soul's map. And when you allow all of it to coexist, a sacred unification between who you were, who you are, and who you are becoming begins to take place. The demands you once placed on yourself start to lose their grip, and the internal judgment fades. In its place arises a more grounded presence, one that is more real, more firm, and more human. You are no longer trying to become someone new. You're starting to truly inhabit yourself. And that in itself is a powerful form of healing. It is a kind of healing that doesn't need visible rituals or dramatic revelations to be real. It shows up in your everyday life, in those moments when you might have once given up on yourself, and now, instead, you choose to stay not to fix everything immediately, but simply to stand by your side with dignity and patience. You begin to notice that pain no longer has the same power over you. It still appears, of course, but now it comes with a different rhythm and a different texture. It doesn't drag you under anymore. It informs you. It no longer freezes your progress. It walks with you as you keep moving. This happens because you've stopped rejecting pain. You've come to understand that it is not your enemy. It is a part of your story that was still waiting to be heard. Your body feels this shift too. The chronic tensions you used to carry, without even questioning them, start to release. Your breathing deepens without you forcing it, and your sleep becomes more restorative, not because your life has become weightless, but because you are finally carrying your burdens from a more integrated place. You are no longer abandoning yourself just to survive. Emotions that once embarrassed you no longer feel like threats. They have become legitimate expressions of who you are, expressions you can now recognize without feeling the need to correct. You can be sad without thinking you're broken. You can feel insecure without doubting your worth. This is one of the clearest signs that you're healing through integration, the ability to hold both your light and your shadow without rejecting either. You are no longer fragmenting yourself to be liked, nor are you denying your truth to fit in. Now you walk with all that you are, with your contradictions and your quiet inner victories. And that wholeness, even with its imperfections, is far more authentic than any mask of perfection you once tried to wear. Another sign is how your view of the past starts to shift. It's not about forgetting what happened or sugarcoating your pain with false positivity. It's about being able to look at your story and feel that it no longer hurts the same way. It doesn't weigh you down like before. When you heal through integration, your difficult moments stop feeling like ever-present threats. They become parts of your journey that you now understand, pieces of your past that have been acknowledged. They no longer define your present. They've been folded into the story of your becoming. You begin to remember not to reopen old wounds, but with a newfound strength that no longer allows those memories to control you. It is not that what you lived through has ceased to matter. The impact is still there, but now you are no longer defined by it. You're no longer imprisoned by the version of yourself that was broken, betrayed, or afraid. Now you're the one who has walked alongside every version of yourself, the wounded, the protective, the silent, the loud, and have chosen, with wisdom and love, to bring all of them together. You have made peace with your contradictions. Your past is no longer a punishment. It becomes something sacred, a place where you learn to hold yourself up when everything else failed. The things you once avoided looking at now you meet with respect. You start to understand that all of your past selves were never mistakes. They were expressions of your will to survive. They were attempts to protect your heart in a world you hadn't yet learned how to navigate. And now, from where you stand, in the present, you can finally embrace all of them with a tenderness that you didn't know how to offer yourself back then. That tenderness does not weaken you. It liberates you, because only those who have made peace with their past can walk into their future with a soul that feels light and unburdened. You no longer carry your story like chains around your ankles. You carry it like threads woven into the fabric of your being. This understanding transforms everything. It shifts how you tell your story. You no longer speak from the wound as if it's still bleeding. You speak from the scar. Your story ceases to be a tragedy and becomes a journey. You no longer define yourself by what was done to you or what you lost. You define yourself by how you chose to rise and transform. This transformation is not loud or dramatic, it's unmistakable. People feel it in your presence. You radiate something calmer, something rooted, not because you're pretending to be healed, but because you truly have begun to understand the alchemy of your own becoming. You realize, too, that forgiveness is not always about others. Sometimes it's about you forgiving yourself for the times you didn't protect your own heart, or for the moments you stayed silent when your soul was screaming. You offer yourself compassion and understand that you did the best you could with the level of awareness you had at that time. That self-forgiveness dissolves judgment and makes space for a new kind of gratitude, the kind that honors what the past taught you. You begin to see that in the darkest places a seed of awakening was planted. You no longer carry your past as a burden. You carry it as your root system, anchoring you and reminding you of where you come from, but never keeping you from growing. Your story is no longer a prison. It becomes your expansion. It doesn't isolate you. It connects you to others in more real and honest ways. You've stopped identifying solely with the pain. Now, when you speak from transformation, not from trauma. This shift doesn't make you cold or distant. It makes you accessible and magnetic, because people can feel when someone has walked through darkness and chosen not to live there. When you revisit your past, it's not to search for blame or to justify your pain. If you return, it's with purpose to gather wisdom, to close cycles, and to understand patterns. Nostalgia, when it comes, doesn't overpower you. You sit with it, you honor it, but you don't cling to it. You realize you don't need to reject your past to move forward. Integration is not forgetting. It's the most loving way to evolve. You no longer push away what hurt you. You welcome it as part of your human experience, understanding that everything your soul endured was necessary to arrive here. With this clarity and peace, another unmistakable sign that you're healing. And evolving is when you begin to act from your center rather than from reactive impulses. This is a quiet but powerful shift that changes everything within you. This transformation is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about finding a grounded space inside yourself from which your actions naturally arise. When you've reconnected the fragmented parts of your inner world, you no longer feel the need to defend yourself against every challenge or prove your worth through impulsive reactions. Your energy stabilizes, and your words become more thoughtful. Your actions start to flow from a unified core, a place that no longer breaks apart under pressure. You no longer react to life. You respond, and that response comes from clarity, not fear. What once overwhelmed you emotionally now meets a new version of you, a version that can observe without becoming consumed. That can feel without getting lost in the feeling. It is not that you stop feeling. It's that you learn to hold space for your emotions. You stop confusing hardness with strength. Your power is no longer something you need to assert. It simply exists quiet, calm, and steady. This inner stability is the organic result of facing your inner shadows and accepting them. When you make peace with your inner contradictions, your external behavior shifts. You begin to act from serenity, not from fear. External conflicts lose their power over you. You become quieter, but your presence speaks louder than ever. This coherence emerges when you stop living in pieces and stop splitting yourself between what you feel and what you show. You begin to exist fully, even in discomfort, without being pulled into chaos. Your energy no longer trembles at every provocation, because you've stopped projecting your unhealed wounds onto the world around you. You don't hand others the power to unbalance you. Your center becomes your sanctuary, not a battlefield. You begin to understand that you don't have to react to everything, not because you don't care, but because you now recognize the value of your energy. You become unwilling to waste it on conflicts that go nowhere. Integration naturally makes you more selective, but not from judgment, rather from self-respect. When you learn to inhabit your own inner space, you also learn how to protect it without closing it off. You set boundaries without guilt and speak your truth without losing your composure. This changes your presence entirely. You become someone who can hold space for others without taking on their weight, who can listen deeply without absorbing their pain. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It only arises when you've made peace with every part of yourself, when there is no longer a war between your mind and your heart. You stop defining yourself by your productivity or how strong you appear on the outside. Instead, you define yourself by your integrity and your capacity to hold yourself with compassion, without demanding perfection. As you continue along this path, you begin to feel a new kind of order emerging within you. Your emotions no longer compete with each other, and your decisions become firmer. The mental noise that used to dominate your thoughts begins to settle. You stop punishing yourself for every misstep and stop demanding that you start over every time you stumble, because now you see that each step, even the uncertain ones, are part of your journey. From this deep self-awareness, your strength becomes grounded. It's there, it's within you, and you wear it like a second skin. You recognize yourself even in the chaos, and know how to return to yourself without having to rebuild from scratch. Another powerful sign of inner transformation is when the way you connect with others begins to reflect the harmony you've cultivated within yourself. You no longer seek relationships from a place of lack, but from a place of awareness. What you once chased externally, validation, love, wholeness, you now recognize as something that already exists within you. From that quiet sense of fullness, you choose more clearly. You no longer form bonds to fill emotional voids, but to share the richness you've cultivated inside. You stop attracting relationships that mirror the same old wounds under different disguises, because you no longer need someone else to play the part of the version of you that you were unwilling to face. You crave depth and seek presence. You yearn for real connections that breathe authenticity, even if they sometimes hurt. The way you communicate begins to shift. You speak with less noise and more intention. You allow yourself to set boundaries without causing harm, and give yourself permission to walk away without resentment, because you no longer cling to people who fragment you. Your internal integration starts to reflect in your external life, and in that mirror, everything that isn't mutual, balanced, or true begins to dissolve naturally. This transformation becomes visible in subtle ways, in how you listen without trying to save, and how you accompany others without absorbing their pain. You begin to choose to stay only where truth is present, and when it's not, you walk away lovingly and guilt-free. You're no longer in relationships to fix your past. Now you connect to grow and evolve together. Your soul no longer accepts emotional breadcrumbs, nor does it feed off shallow connections with no roots. You're no longer manipulated by the fear of losing someone, because you've learned that you cannot lose what is truly meant for you. And when someone leaves as you stand firmly in your truth, they are not really leaving. They are revealing themselves. Your soul no longer makes silent contracts just to be loved. You don't lower the volume of your inner voice to avoid making others uncomfortable. And in that strength, your relationships become more honest, healthier, and far more real. There's no drama, only presence. No power play, only mutual respect. You discover that love, when lived from integration, doesn't seek control or external security. It seeks shared freedom. You no longer wait for someone to complete you. You simply offer what is already full within you. Even in goodbyes, the energy is different. You no longer beg for permanence in places where growth has ceased. Something extraordinary begins to unfold so subtly that you almost don't notice it at first. You start to feel peace without any apparent reason, a peace that doesn't rely on your surroundings being perfect or on every area of your life being resolved. It arises spontaneously, like a breath that slows on its own. You are not euphoric, you're simply here, fully present. This peace doesn't mean you've stopped feeling pain. You still feel deeply, but now you know how to hold it. You no longer run from your emotions or deny them. You witness them and let them go. They've served their purpose. This shift brings another clarity. You begin to see the difference between what is urgent and what is truly important. You stop reacting to everything and don't feel the pressure to prove you're making progress, because you already are. Your soul stops running, and when it does, your mind quiets and your energy becomes lighter. You no longer fight every discomfort or resist reality. And then the world starts to notice, not because you've made an announcement, but because your presence has changed. The way you speak, the way you look at people, the way you move it, all carries a different frequency now. You no longer need to explain your healing. You no longer seek validation. What you transmit is felt deeply, and what is felt from a place of peace doesn't require proof. Peace isn't the end of the path. It's the new way you walk it. Your balance comes from within now. It is no longer fragile because it isn't built on outside conditions. You begin to realize that the wholeness you've been seeking was never outside of you. It was always within you. True serenity isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting yourself. It means you can change direction without feeling lost, and you can lack answers and still feel whole. From this place of peace, the noise of the world begins to lose its grip. External opinions no longer define your worth. You belong to yourself. Now, that inner belonging becomes the foundation upon which everything else is built. This calm, unshakable peace is the most profound signal that healing is happening deeply and authentically. If this message resonated with your soul, if you felt that it was meant for you at this exact moment in time, your awakening deserves to be witnessed. Your journey deserves to be honored, and your presence, just as it is the very gift this world needs. You are not broken. You are gathering your scattered pieces, and in this sacred inner gathering the peace you once searched. For out there begins to awaken within you, silent, deep, and real. Don't let that feeling fade. This journey is just beginning, and you don't have to walk it alone. There is a whole community of souls just like you waking up, healing, and remembering who they truly are. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of truth, light, or connection. Let this space be your reminder that you are not alone, that your process matters, and that your healing is sacred. And if this message touche